Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artists, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And I'm standing here today in Rotherhithe Street in southeast London, and we're going to go inside this pub and see a familiar face, so come with me. Oh, Mr. Griffin.
Oh, hello. Oh, this is rather a shock.
Right. How are you, Brian?
Pretty good. Just had a pint, so I feel even better. It's brilliant, yeah. Welcome to my pub. Not my pub, but the pub I come in.
Great, and we've got two of your mates here today. We've got Jim.
Bonjour.
Jim and Fred.
Hello.
And guys, these are two what we call in England diamond geezers. And if you don't know what that means from abroad, it means like salt of the earth type characters that have grown up here and real sort of upstanding people in the community. And they're here today to help us, because Brian and I are going to show you the site where the Depeche Mode People Are People photo shoot took place. And Jim and Fred are going to take us down there, and we're going to go through some of the history of the area. So are we going to go, gentlemen? You ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's go for it. Okay, so we're walking down Rotherhithe Street now. So Brian, can you remember more or less where this photo shoot took place?
Well, I have to be honest. I've had to really engage with Fred and my friends Fred and Jimmy here to really figure out exactly where it was. Because as you probably know, it's like 33, 34 years ago or something.
Can't have been long before it shut. You took them photos probably within a couple of years of the company going. It was not so long after that it went.
So I know it was down here and round this bend here.
This here was the rubbish, council rubbish, Sunderland Wharf, where you should tip the rubbish into the barges. This wall was never here. It's just an old wooden fence.
Okay, so this was it was a Castrol GT. Was it a Castrol oil refinery where this photo shoot took place?
Storage place.
Storage.
Fred, you know.
I think it was called Dick's Wharf or Dicky Wharf or something like that, wasn't it, Jim?
Yep.
But that's Castrol's owned it.
Oh, I see. Dicky Wharf.
I'm only guessing. There was a name like that, wasn't it?
I see. Okay, and how much further was it up the road?
It's about another 250 metres.
Ah, okay.
On the left here, there was a little shop, Wally Williams' shop, and then it was a lead works from here to the fire station. That's the fire station in the distance there. That was Enthoven's Lead Works, the most smelly place in the world.
Very good.
They just broke up batteries and melted them down and all things like that.
There's a lot of history around here, Fred, isn't there?
Well, yeah, working history, not much. Most of it I tried to flatten. This road here, Jimmy remembers a little bit better than mine. This was original tarry blocks, but they burnt. So all the curbs used to be about that high, didn't they, Jim? You couldn't get up the curb.
Right. True. So it's improved a lot over time, has it?
Yeah, a bit.
So we're going right up the top of there, look. That
bridge in the distance.
The bridge in the distance there.
Oh, so the bridge in the distance there. Okay. So, Brian, you said it used to be really sort of like derelict and run down here.
Very dark down here. I very rarely come down here from my studio.
Here, wasn't it?
It was narrow. I wouldn't come down. It was like so dark and deserted. In fact, to get a taxi to come from central London to bring you down here would be a miracle.
Fine, you couldn't get a policeman to get you down here.
Couldn't get a policeman to get down.
The police were too scared to come here.
Well, Fred and Jimmy know a lot about that.
What are you saying?
I'm saying it was very lucky that the fire station was there.
What's that, Jim?
It was very lucky that the fire station was there because Castrol did catch a light, and it was immense, as you can imagine. All the oil going up in flames, and it was a great sight. There was loads of people trying to watch it, and they were all shaded back, but that was obviously prior to Brian doing the photographs for the cover for Depeche Mode.
Oh. How long have you lived in this area for, Jim?
70 odd years.
Okay, it looks like they've stopped here. Let's just see. What's the significance of this?
This is the fire station.
Okay.
But them buildings at the back weren't there. But the fireboat used to often dock there. a high tide, and they'd come in. A massive shore.
But Fred, this area was bombed badly during World War II, really badly.
Seen this little Banksy
Badly,
down here?
yeah.
It's not a Banksy, but it looks like one. There, down there, look.
Oh, is that a Banksy?
No, I don't think it is. You see it
Oh
down
my
there?
God, it's the Violator Rose. Are you getting that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like the Violator Rose, yeah. Did you do that, Brian?
What's that?
Is that you doing a Banksy?
No, I thought it was a Banksy, but it's probably not.
You didn't have any red paint.
Oh, you do black and white. Well, I think it's quite good if we look at the area where people were shot. You know, the area of the location, which we're almost approaching now. We're almost there where this bus stop is. This is the start, yeah.
Fire station, then it was Castrol's.
This is it.
Oh, is this where it starts? Is this where the oil?
This is it.
Both sides.
You want to go over the road? And have a look?
Okay, Leah, let's go over. Everyone.
So this is, well, Fred and Jimmy know far more than me, but this is where I shot it, here. Obviously it was a Castrol oil storage depot then, but now you can see it's a bunch of horrible modern flats.
Wow. Okay. So when did this go up? Tour guide.
I would imagine late 80s.
Yeah.
The fire station shut down 90s nearly, when it got to 90s.
Yeah.
But that was started before.
Okay, it's very interesting.
It was a garage for a long while, wasn't it, the fire station? These had done car repairs and lorry repairs in there.
Oh wow, so much history. Yeah. Brian, do you want to unveil the approval print there that you're holding?
Yeah, sure.
This is the
This is
so this is the approval poster print. This is the original, and this is the You're getting that, Lloyd? Yeah. And so this was filmed right over there. So you're getting that, Lloyd? Wow. Okay. So this was inside, obviously.
This was inside, so we could walk inside if you want, or you want to walk down the side.
Wherever you think we
Where
should
do you
go.
think it'd be best to have a look?
The side is probably better.
Other side. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Go over the bridge if you want.
Okay. Let's go over the bridge.
Yeah, so the location is over there. That's where the oil storage tanks were. Am I right in saying that, Fred?
Yeah. This side was the rice mills. This side of this thing was the rice mills, and that was the oil place.
Wow.
You
Interesting.
can see the waters down there.
Used to catch our eels in there.
Catching seals.
And this was, when was that photo taken? 1984, 85?
Well, I think Black Celebration was that 86.
Well, this was before Black Celebration. Help me, Lloyd. That is a People Are People. This was the photo for the single. So it would have been about 84, 85, I should think. Yeah, going back a long way. Okay, we're going over the bridge now. So so this bridge has obviously been here for
Well,
years.
this is modern.
Is the bridge modern as well?
This is all modern. Everything's modern now. The whole of where I chose to shoot People Are People has been completely taken away, and all this modern architecture, well, relatively modern architecture, has replaced it. As you can see, we're on the Thames here, and my studio is just up the road, so it's very convenient to walk down here with the band, really, which we'll go and have a look at my studio soon, but it's literally a 5-minute walk up the road.
Absolutely. So
That's probably why I chose it as well. You know.
all convenient. So Brian was obviously based in Rotherhithe for most of his career, most of his professional career, really. So Brian, I think just as a sort of a closing shot, if I can get you to stand here with the two diamond geezers and just just display the there we go, just display that there. So I'll hold that. So yeah, there we go. So everyone smile. Thank you. Right, okay. Here we are in the St. Mary's Churchyard.
No.
No, that's further on. Where are we, Brian? Go on.
We're opposite the pump house, the Brunel pump house, which is over on the sunny side of the street over there. And this now, because it's got all very modernised and very posh around here compared to how it used to be when I first moved. I first moved in here, this area here, in 1980. And this now is called Rotherhithe Village. But back then, what would you say it was, Jim? Back then it was like Rotherhithe, centre of villainy. I don't know, something. Or this is where all the crooks hang out. This is where nobody's going to come down here. It's too dark. It's too horrible. Tax says, I'm not going to take you down there, you know. And it was dark, and people just didn't want to come down in this area back then.
All the villains. Was it? Come on, Jim. Was it the Crays and the Richardsons? Or?
Crays were East End, Richardsons was South London.
So was this dangerous? Would you ever come down here when you were a kid?
I didn't have a choice because I lived here, you know, in the area. So yeah, I'd still come down here. All friends, everybody knew one another.
So the rules of those days would just keep your head down and keep your gob shut and just keep out of trouble.
Don't say anything to the old Bill. Don't say a word to him.
So don't be a rat, as they say. Yeah.
No, definitely no. Do not snitch. If you're a snitch, you end up in a ditch.
This sounds like some kind of gangster production now.
Well, it was a little bit because I had to befriend everyone here. We'll go to where I befriended them in a minute, the pub which is down here. It's a very famous pub where the Pilgrim Fathers sailed firstly to Plymouth and then to America.
Is that the Mayflower pub?
Mayflower. We'll go down there in a minute. It's just about 50 metres down the street here. But here, we're right on the corner here. This was my studio here. Now it's a Piers Goff modern building. Before that, it was just a one-storey converted warehouse. And this corner here, if we just walk a few metres, if we can, this bit here was my first studio. This bit here. Obviously, there was just a window here, and you had to go into a courtyard, and you enter the studio, you know, not on the street here. You could do if you wanted. So it's a fairly small studio, about, well, it's in square feet. You have to forgive me for this, but about 1,000 square feet was this side. The reason I'm pointing this out is that this is where I did the Depeche Mode publicity session with the band around the Speak and Spell period. The band would still talk to me at that time, which is quite nice.
Well, they don't talk to you now?
Oh, they talk to me a lot now. I mean, obviously there was a little bit of friction regarding the album cover, but they came down here and we shot a load of stuff in the studio here around 1980, 81. And then I moved further down the building, which is not relevant Depeche Mode-wise, into a much bigger studio, which is a few paces down the street there. But this was where my studio is, and it's quite a pleasant part of London. If you can just have a quick look here, it's quite nice. It's now called Rotherhithe Village.
That's right. And how do you feel when you look at this and see it's been turned into flats? And that's what they do in London. They knock down historical things and turn them into flats. I
don't know. It took a piece of history away. I don't think there'll be a blue plaque on the outside of this building. I mean, I did a lot here in this studio. I did a lot. I mean, photographed a lot of famous people, a lot of bands. If anyone's got the pop book, then the majority of the studio photography in the pop book, which is a big fat book, was done here, in this space here.
Wow, so let's actually just cross the road here so we can get a sort of like a long shot of it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so
there we have it. a lot of stuff was done down. You think of the band that were down here, you know, whether it was Elvis Costello, whether it was Depeche Mode, whether it was Psychedelic Furs. You think of an 80s band and they came here. It would have been dark, a bit miserable, a bit like, ooh, I feel a little bit weird down here.
But very rock and roll and not sterile.
Exactly, because up the street here is where the Sex Pistols started. They used to rehearse up the street here. A lot of bands recorded. There was a small studio up the street here. And even Bob Dylan came down here to do a promo. He just came down the street here. There are a lot of bands know this area. And they all ended up in the pub. Mayflower, which is down the street here after they'd done their session or their recording. And so therefore my book Pop, which is co-authored by Terry Rawlins, very famous rock writer, who just lives just down the street here. This was a bit of a rock and roll 100 meters really.
And now it's just residential flats and...
Now it's just residential flats.
You know, guys, I hate to be cynical, but this happens a lot in London. A lot of iconic and historical structures and venues are being knocked down. London's becoming like a dormitory now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, it's terrible. This really had an edge, this area, a real edge to it. It was quite inspiring. It was like, ooh, a little bit like, ooh, unsettling. But as I said, Jimmy here, I mean, he grew up here. He made the man.
Oh, it made me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it did, yeah. Yeah, it'd be a bit tough, yeah.
Brian, can I ask you one rumour? Is it true that you kicked the band Talk out of your studio?
I did, yeah. I mean, they were just impossible. One of the great bands of the 80s. I mean, like, you know, is it Spirit of Eden? I can't remember now. That album was incredible. It is an incredible album, but I just couldn't work with them. They weren't the only ones I kicked out the studio. I kicked out a few, to be honest with you. And anybody would have done, you know.
Because you've got a lot of patience, so for you to kick someone out must mean they've really crossed the line.
Oh, yeah, it's just... I mean, obviously I wouldn't get paid, you know. I'd just throw away my fee by not completing the session. So it was quite a sacrifice as well. So you can imagine how bad it was.
Cool. Okay, let's move on. Right, Brian, we're standing here at the outside of the Mayflower, and this was the iconic pub where it all happened.
It certainly did. This is the iconic area that happened for me, really. And certainly, regards to Depeche Mode, we did quite a lot of work down this street, as you highlighted earlier. And in the studio there, just literally there, we'd all come here, walk into the bar here. This was our imbibing place. Is that the right word?
Yeah, it's a good word. I think a lot of people might need to look up the meaning of that.
Drinking place.
Drinking place.
Drinking place.
So just to get some context, I just want to... There we go. So Brian's studio was right over there. Yep. And then if you come in this way, you will see this is where the pub was. So it was very convenient to have the pub so close by to your studio.
I think one always needs three things in life. A place where you work out of, that is near a pub, a curry house, and a good fish and chip shop.
Well, there you go, guys. That's words of wisdom from Brian Griffin.
No, but seriously, this was quite a place, really. Obviously, I'm going back many years, and this was a real centre, this place. And you know, like all the bands that came to my studio came in here with me, or came and drank in here. And also down the street here, you know, the Sex Pistols started down the street here. And you'd have loads of bands coming down. Bob Dylan came down here. Ian Drury and the Blockheads, lots of 80s bands came and rehearsed and recorded stuff down the end of the street here.
Wow, so this is just like a piece of history, and you've got the St. Mary's Churchyard just over there.
Yeah, well, that was controlled by a vicar, a very famous vicar in this area called Nick the Vic. He was a heavy drinker,
Nick the Vic, a heavy drink.
and it cost him his life in the end, unfortunately. He was a very, very big part of this neighbourhood. The whole area here was very much like a very important group of people, and we were all together. You know, we were very close, all of us.
Very close knit, and as you say, it was quite dark and dingy in some ways, but very rock and roll and very, very authentic and quite dangerous. But there seemed to be like a magic there that we've possibly lost now.
Yeah, I mean, this was a crucible of creativity for me. The film studios here, the great pub here, recording studios down the street there, my studio there. This was quite something in the 80s.
This is so interesting. Okay, well, this is the famous the Mayflower pub, which is here in Rotherhithe, the Rotherhithe village, and we're going to go in now. And I think we should have a drink, shall we, Brian?
Maybe one.
3 drinks later. Let's go and have a look. Right, we're here inside the charming Mayflower pub. Now, Brian, you said that back in the day, this is where you used to spend a lot of your time.
Yeah, I first realised that this bar existed when I moved down here. And it's a very private bar. It was then. Now it's got, like, in the modern age, very touristy. But it was a real enclosed bar that was just completely filled with, can we say, locals?
Well, you say, and it's true, these days it's very touristy. But back in those days, there were lots of villains here and a lot of the underworld. And
Yeah, we what happened here, we all gathered around the tables here. And we all faced each other and talked about things. And I played chess in here with some of them. Where we used to have games of chess and things. And it was real, can we say, people from around here. And some people that earned their livings from other means. Yeah. All sorts of villains.
friends of yours, Brian?
Well, they were quite nice. I mean, they were interesting people, and I'm fascinated with everyone, you know. But we all got together, and I realised very quickly that I needed to embrace them as well, because I had my studio just literally 30 meters maybe behind us here, and I didn't want all my equipment to be stolen rather, or my studio to be broken into. So I needed them to be my mates, really.
And it's interesting, you know, I don't want, as I said, we don't want to turn this into a sort of like a Danny Dyer gangster documentary, but it is interesting because although there was some of those people that some people used to refer to as the naughty boys, they did look after you and they did keep order and they kept discipline in the area, didn't they?
Oh yeah, all sorts of things. I would, if they went to prison, their girlfriends would come in my studio, and I'd do photographs of their girlfriends so they could hang in their cells, you know. Wow. So they could see their girlfriends while they were in prison. Some of them cleaned my car, for instance. In return, they could take their family on a trip in my car. Some of them personally looked after me if I had to go to places where, you know, I needed somebody next to me. And also, they would ensure that my car or anything was not stolen or broken into. They were really protectors. They really treasured me and looked after me. And then, believe it or not, as the 80s progressed, I started using them in a lot of my photography as well. And a lot of my photo shoots have some of them in.
Wow, that is so fascinating. And Brian, there were some fascinating characters that used to frequent this pub. Tell us about it. Can you speak about some of them?
Yeah, I mean, there was a mixture of people. There would be us, mostly men, sitting around here. You could enter from the outside into here. And it was a very private bar. It was like had a door there which doesn't exist anymore. So we were really enclosed there. And we talked across the room here. There were people that earned their money from, can we say, less honest, or, well, they were regarded as being quite honest, but can we say...
The business, yeah.
From various elements of criminality. And then there was Flo, who sat over there in the total nude. She was a woman in her early 60s.
Sorry, in the total nude?
No clothes on.
She was naked at the bar.
She was naked at the bar, and she worked for the Guardian. She was a journalist, so they were all quite well-educated
A naked
people.
Guardian for the journalists.
A Guardian from the Guardian news. Sorry, she worked on the Guardian newspaper,
And she was a journalist.
and she was a journalist, and she always her thing was to just sit in the nude over against the bar.
Like stark naked.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot like Martin Gore when he sang his song for Somebody. You heard that story when Alan Wilder said how he took all his clothes off to record the vocals to Somebody.
I don't know
and
that.
you do like the song Somebody.
I do, yeah. It's one of their best ever songs, definitely.
So Martin, if you're watching this, there's a woman called Flo who likes to roll like you do. Anyway, so this was go on.
So this was a real. I come from the Black Country, which is a very working class area.
Yeah.
Down here, the docks had closed,
Yeah.
which is a very working class area here, full of dockers, full of docks, the biggest docks in the world at one point in time. So it was a very similar type of people to the area where I grew up. So
Yeah.
I felt very comfortable and very at home here. I felt I could really get some good work done. And all the bands used to come in here. Where if I was working with a band, they would come in here after the shoot, say early evening or whatever, and they would have beer here and they'd sit down here with us, whoever they were. I can't say Depeche Mode sat in here. They might have done, but I cannot actually say they did.
But this, as you say, you spent a lot of your time in this pub.
Well, yeah, because my studio was two doors down, so all I had to do is walk sort of like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and I was in the pub here. And it was the place to be because all the local people came in here. But unfortunately, towards the end of the 80s, they banned everybody coming in here because they wanted to change the clientele. So no longer did this bar flourish and was full of these amazing characters.
We talked about that earlier when we were down the street there, Brian, how we talked about, and I say again, how a lot of, we see it across London, how a lot of sort of iconic pubs are being closed down, iconic structures, venues, things like the Astoria in central London, they've been closed down and turned into hotels, blocks of flats. We're losing the heritage and what makes this place so rich, I feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all slightly going everywhere, isn't it? I mean, fortunately, this pub has retained quite a bit of it, of what it was like. I mean, obviously, a lot of these paintings here never existed. It's all been done because we have to remember that the Pilgrim Fathers, or the Mayflower, the ship that the Pilgrim Fathers sailed into America, and sailed from here. And this is the only pub in Britain where you can still buy American postage stamps and English postage stamps, and the post office is just at the end of the bar.
So fascinating. And my American subscribers, hello to you there. They are so fascinated. The Americans are always so fascinated by Britain and its history because we're kind of bound by blood. But there is, I think America being a new and a young country, the Americans are always fascinated by the history of Britain and what we have here.
Yeah, well, tons and tons of them come here. It's one of the places for them to come because this is sort of where their country began, or part of their country began,
Absolutely. And Brian, we were talking about the plaques on the back of this bench here. For instance, he has one that says Russell Twyman, 1961 to 1994. And you said you knew him?
I knew him. I can't remember how he died, but he died very young, as you can probably see.
I can see 1961 to 1994. What's that, 33 years?
Yes, yeah, he was very young. He was a very interesting man. But I think he had an accident, a really bad accident. I don't think it was through an illness.
Do you think your name would ever end up on the bench here, Brian? I think it should.
No. They don't know me here now as new owners and everything. I mean, I'm further down the street, as you know, where we started this film. That's my manor now. That's the ones who always come. But the funny thing is there's a film studio just outside here.
Yes.
And one of the main people that work in this film studio said to me, Brian, he said, when you die, you're going to have a massive turnout, because the church is just outside here, as you know.
It is, yes.
And I'm going to have a massive turnout, apparently. So maybe some people from the pub will go, yeah.
Brian, you're going to live forever. And the way you're going now, actually, while we're there, we want to drink to your good health.
I'll drink to yours. Oh,
Okay.
it's finished mine.
Listen, Brian, I want to, while we're here, I want to quickly jump onto the prints here, the poster prints.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
we unveiled this earlier on down the street when we showed where this photo took place.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
guys, as I say once again, this is the original approval print. Now, when I asked Brian to make these poster prints available to the channel, obviously we approach Brian's approved printer, and then Brian's approved printer, Kevin, will send us to the approvals. Then basically what that is for Brian to have a look at and approve whether we go ahead or not. I'm happy to say that Brian has approved to go ahead with it. So what I'm going to ask Brian to do, I'm going to ask him to autograph this one, and then I'm going to give it away to one of my subscribers here. We're going to figure out how we're going to do that yet. But for now, Brian, I'm going to ask you to sign that, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to just explain I'm just going to explain to you guys. So, guys, if you're new to my channel, you will know that this is part of the Depeche Mode album review series. We've rolled out some exclusive prints or poster prints, which Brian has made exclusive to the Vaughn George channel, and there are now 7 images. And they are available exclusively through this channel. Now, what makes these poster prints completely unique compared to any other posters that you can buy off Brian's is the fact that these are the most accurate reproductions of Brian's work, but also they are personally signed by Brian Griffin himself. So as you can see, Brian's going to demonstrate. Brian, can we give us your rock and roll
Pen.
Yes.
And here we go. I'm going to. Shall I just put best wishes or something? What would you think I should put?
I tell you what. Put best wishes, because what we're going to do is we're going to give this to one of my channel members.
Put best wishes here, so we can put the name after it, of course. And then my name's down there.
Well, I tell you what. Why don't you just sign it for now, and then we can put a personalised message for them there afterwards. So this is the idea, guys. With this offer, you get to purchase a piece of Brian Griffin's iconic poster print, one of his iconic poster prints. And what makes this offer different is that these are not only the most accurate reproductions because they're straight from the original negatives, but they are also dedicated to you and signed by Brian himself. So if you want to know any more about this offer, please get in touch with me at info@vorti.com, and I'll walk you through the ordering process. But while we're on the subject of this image, Brian, this was the People Are People image photo that you took.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people will look at this and think that is the actual cover, but that is not. That's a slight variation.
No, it's not. I mean, it's far better than the cover because there's 2 improvements. One, you can see Martin far clearer. Sorry.
Yeah, because if we look at the original one, Martin's face is like in the shadow.
And then we have David, who's a lot clearer as well here. You see David there, David Gahan? This is a better image than the one that was used on the cover. So you're getting a finer image if you purchase it.
And we talked about this last time as well, Brian. Whenever you did the photo shoot, you would obviously submit the prints to them to make their decision. And very often I felt that sometimes they didn't choose the best image for the album cover.
They didn't on most occasions, actually. I think it started to happen later on, towards these. I don't know. I mean, as we said before, Construction Time Again, I don't think was the very best image for the cover. But that was just an aesthetic thing. But when it comes towards the end, images like this one, then they didn't choose the right one technically either.
I see. And as I said, you could have jumped in and said, "Hey guys, I feel you should."
I was never embraced in there. I was never part of that discussion, which is a shame really, because I said, "Look here, this much." So this one is the far better image, if you like this image, than the one you've got on your 12-inch.
And I think as well, because you say you and Daniel Miller were such good friends and you had such respect for the band, that is why you didn't really want to muscle in and say, hang on, I want this to be the album cover. You just sort of left them to their own devices, so to speak.
I think Daniel was a very good man, and he probably listened to Martin Atkins because he thought maybe, well, Martin is the designer of the cover, so he must choose the image that goes on it. So he was happy generally with all the images probably, and he just let Martin Atkins choose the image for the cover. I don't know if Martin actually designed this sleeve. I have not looked at the credits. But he would have asked the designer anyway to have to choose the photograph.
Very interesting. And guys, as I say, I'm going to be soon rolling out the Black Celebration album review series, which is going to be an in-depth 4-part series. And all the rest of the album review series are available on my channel. And if you look through the history, you will see I've interviewed Brian on all the other album covers as well. But we're looking very forward to the Black Celebration album review series and the interview with Brian. And a little bit sad because that means it comes to the end of the Brian Griffin artwork series. But don't worry, we're going to be getting him on the channel for a lot more in-depth. There's so much more this man can talk about. Brian, I've really enjoyed this little chat, and I'm so grateful for your time as always. And you've been so gracious with your time, and the people on the channel, are so happy to have you on the channel that that some people are saying, "Oh no, don't get rid of Brian." So don't worry, you'll see Brian a lot because there is so much to talk about. John Fox and so many different things.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and most of it was done here in Rotherhithe, just next door, and this is where we came after the shoots.
Well, guys, if you want to check out a nice pub, it's the Mayflower in Rotherhithe. Iconic, and really, I just love the way they've kept it in this old, authentic way. Listen, Mr. Griffin, Brian, I want to thank you so much for your time. And to the channel members, I want to thank you. Leave your comments below. Reach out to us. Reach out to Brian. Send your regards. We send ours. And thank you always. Hit that subscribe button. And Brian and I will see you soon on the Black Celebration series, which is coming soon. Brian, I'd like to shake your hand. And let's have a toast to all our subscribers and all across the world. Lots of love to you from the Mayflower pub in Rotherhithe. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.